The United Nations says that hospitals and other services in Gaza, which is under an Israeli blockade, are running out of fuel, and that its aid agency there may have to stop working tonight if it doesn't get a fresh supply. But Israel has accused Hamas, designated as a terror group by the UK government, of stockpiling hundreds of thousands of litres. Israel has allowed limited supplies of food, water and medicine in, but charities say that vast amounts more are needed. And all of this takes place amid a bitter diplomatic row between Israel and the UN. Our first report tonight is from our special correspondent Fergal Keane, who is in Jerusalem and has been working with teams on the ground in Gaza, and a warning that his report contains some distressing images.
Each climbing cloud a marker of destruction. Relentless airstrikes. Thousands of bombs dropped. Hamas started this war. Israel responds with devastating force. It is a story of stunned aftermath and desperate searching. The man was away from his home when the bomb fell. He speaks to his lost loved ones. I wish we'd stayed with you. And then a child who survived. They're all gone, he tells her. BBC cameras in Gaza captured medics collecting the wounded. The man shouts, "Nasser, his head is open," speaking of the child in his arms. Mahmoud Badawi daily faces the killing inflicted from the skies, but there isn't time to stop, much less show his feelings. From one scene of carnage to another. There are the survivors to care for.
There are many hard situations. As an ambulance driver, you get accustomed to what's happening, whether it's hands, heads or bodies that are cut.
In many families now, there's the need to familiarize their children with the morbid practicalities of life in a war zone.
I have seen bodies blown apart. You can't identify anyone. So in case anything happened and they were blown up, I would know them from this bracelet and I can collect their bodies.
It is not knowledge any parent wants to impart. In Gaza's hospitals, there are acute shortages, struggling to keep services going as fuel supplies dwindle. 12-year-old Ahmed Barahem suffers from kidney failure and he's exhausted. Sometimes in the heart of it all, there's good news. She's okay, but she's scared, they call out. Her father is being freed from the rubble. First the names, then the medic's reassurance. They're all out, I swear. The emergency workers like Mahmoud are overstretched, exhausted, knowing that however much they do, in Gaza now, it cannot be enough. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza now says almost 6,500 people have been killed since the start of the conflict. The BBC's Gaza correspondent, Rushdi Abualouf, has remained working there despite the conditions. He's in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, and earlier this evening he described the situation there.
Yeah, tonight there was heavy bombardment around this hospital. This is Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. It's the hospital that is the only medical center that's serving half of the population now, and it's in the edge of catastrophic, as the director of the hospital just told me that they have shut most of the operations and only the operation room and the life-saving place and facilities are working. They are struggling to cope with the situation with the shortage of fuel. No fuel coming to this hospital for about 20 days. Just about half an hour ago, airstrike this direction about 200 meters from the hospital destroyed a three-story building. About 50 people in one go, they rushed to this hospital. Imagine, doctors have to deal with 50 casualties in one go, and some of them were dead, some of them were severely injured. So I was to this operation room and I saw how they are struggling to cope with the situation, and no guarantee for how long they can keep doing this without supplies and fuel.
Correspondent in Gaza there, Rushdi Abualouf. There's also been a blistering row between Israel and the UN over comments by its chief, Antonio Guterres, that the attacks by Hamas on October the 7th did not happen in a vacuum. Israel reacted with fury, saying it would deny visas to top UN officials and calling on Mr. Guterres to resign. He spoke today of being misrepresented.
I spoke of the grievances of the Palestinian people. And in doing so, I also clearly stated, and I quote, "But the grievances of the Palestinian people cannot justify the appalling attacks by Hamas," end quote.
And this evening, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made another public address to the nation, insisting a ground invasion will happen.
We are raining hellfire on Hamas. We have already killed thousands of terrorists, and this is only the beginning. Simultaneously, we are preparing for a ground invasion. I will not elaborate on when, how, or how many.
We can speak now to our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, who is in southern Israel for us. And Jeremy, what should we read into the timing of this statement by Mr. Netanyahu? Why say this now?
First and foremost, I think it was aimed at a domestic audience, as you've just seen. It was in Israeli prime time, and he was speaking in Hebrew. I think that he was trying to reassert to people that he's in control. The one, if you like, new thing, sort of new thing in it, was the fact that he did say there would be a ground invasion because there have been many delays. People expected it to have happened or started already. Some people are even saying that Mr. Netanyahu is hesitant. He has a reputation for that, and that he might not even go through with it. Well, he said he's going to go through with it, and he used very strong language, and strong language as well at the United Nations. The Israeli ambassador there condemned what the Secretary General was saying, and he didn't accept the clip that the sentiment in the clip that you played there, that he said that he was misrepresented, that the Israelis effectively only took part of his statement and criticized that and not the other part of it. And having read the whole thing, I think I tend to agree with the Secretary General just looking at that. I think right now the Israelis do not want any criticism. And they've been getting it from the UN, not just from the Secretary General, but from UN agencies. And it's something they don't want, because their message is they are respecting international law, and the UN is basically saying that they're not. And at a time when they are aware that the legitimacy of what they're doing is increasingly being questioned, I think that this means that they're going to continue pushing back very hard. One more thing. Since Mr. Netanyahu spoke, there's been an awful lot of shell noise coming from Gaza, which is about, there's another one there, I don't know if the microphone picked it up, which is about 10 kilometers in that away. It's really being hammered tonight, and it started, artillery and airstrikes, just about the time that Mr. Netanyahu was speaking.